Hey everyone, it's Jaycee. Welcome back to another perfect pairing with me. Valentine's Day is just around the corner. In today's card making tutorial, I'm sharing 2 cards and crafting techniques to make perfect handmade cards for anyone. Before we get into today's project, make sure you subscribe to the Altenew channel for more card making and paper crafting tutorials. My Perfect Pairings with Jaycee series explores crafting techniques that effortlessly blend sure-to-love new releases and well-loved Altenew favorites. If you love these kinds of crafty tutorials, hit the bell icon so you'll be notified of my videos airing on the 2nd and 4th Sunday. My main focus on both cards is the Chrome Sentiments Stencil. Making these chrome-like sentiments requires a two-tone gradient for this metallic illusion. It reminds me of those 1990s airbrushed t-shirts that you could get on the boardwalk or in the mall. I thought this sentiment stencil would be perfect for Valentine's Day or anytime you want to show admiration for someone. So let's get started. I need the sticky matte grid from the Stampwheel to hold my white cardstock and the Chrome Sentiments stencil. I'm starting with the top half of the I love you sentiment and getting that positioned as centered as I can on my panel. With a little bit of satin masking tape, I'm masking off the lower half of the sentiment. The key to success to get perfect chrome sentiments is high value gradients. So I'm starting with a very dark berry color, acai berry, from the dried Petals fresh dye ink set. Then on the second half of the top portion of the sentiment, I'm using pink crystal to color the lighter gradient. I'll remove and save the masking tape to mask off the top half of the sentiment. Then I'll work on the lower layer. All you have to do is align the sentiment so that the two halves of the sentiment meet halfway. To get that dimensional curved metallic sentiment, you'll need to repeat the top-down gradient once more. I'm going to switch up the colors though for a little bit more interest, so I'm starting with Berrylicious on the darker top half, then Mauve on the bottom half of the gradient. Now we just have to finish the U gradient to finish this focal sentiment. I'll start the top half of the sentiment with acai berry as before, then change over to Arctic from Glacier Caves fresh dye ink for the lighter portion of the sentiment. Then on the lower half gradient, I'll use Berrylicious on top and Arctic on the bottom. Again, the key is this clean contrasting line through the sentiment for that chrome illusion. Now we can dress up the sentiment with some fun artful elements. I've been experimenting with the acrylic markers lately, and I love them for illustrative styles and graffiti themes. And you don't need to be a professional to enjoy these markers. Let me show you an easy way to use these markers. I'm starting with jet black acrylic marker or number 23 to create a bold welded outline around the letters. I'm preserving a small white space around the letters, sort of like a die cut. Any place I want to refine the outline with smaller details, I'm using the fine liner pen set in 01 to add details and fix shaky lines. Now for the fun parts, I'm going to grab analogous colors to purple at random, so pinks, reds, blues, and some purple to compound the jet black outline. The width of the outline is just as wide as the bullet nib on the marker. And you'll see I'm just making it up as I go with colors. I keep adding concentric outlines until I reach the very edge of the cardstock panel. I love the painted look of these markers, and I'm glad I have a new medium to add to the watercolors, alcohol-based markers, water-based markers, and inks. I let this panel dry back before trimming it to 3 3/4 by 5 inches. I made intentional cuts to center my sentiment on my panel. I'll dress up these outlines with even more interesting graphics. One of my favorite stamp sets to free stamp with is the A Fresh Start stamp set. I'll mix and match these plus images, hearts, and circles in dried Petals fresh dye ink on top of the acrylic marker. Remember, dye inks are transparent, so they'll take on a little bit of the cardstock color underneath. Lighter colors are also even more transparent, giving this beautiful shadow effect on top of the concentric outlines. To finish this card, I'll add a generous amount of pure white ink spray splatter and foam mount this panel on top of a coordinating cardstock panel. You can certainly switch up the color palette for your recipient, so to show you a second iteration of the first card, I'll go back to the Chrome Sentiment stencil. This time I'll use the "You Are Awesome" sentiment. Just as before, I'm making top-down gradients to get the metallic look. This time I'll use the detail blending brushes to color these smaller gradients. On the top half, I'm using Evergreen as my dark value, then Icy Lemonade as my light value. On the bottom half, I'll use Arctic, then Forest Glades. Instead of tracing the perimeter of the sentiment with jet black acrylic marker, I'll make a finer outline with the 01 fine liner pen. And again, I'm just tracing the perimeter of the sentiment with the fine liner pen. Now with the acrylic markers, I'll trace the perimeter just as before. I'm starting with number 6, Fresh Lemon, to add a bold outline. Instead of repeating the concentric outline, I'm going to add paint blobs and bubbles around the sentiment. It's as easy as applying random circles to the sentiment. I'm doing this with a mix of the green acrylic markers in the set. These freehand images are almost like paint drips on the background. Before I add too many paint drops, I'll use the same A Fresh Start stamp set to add random graphic motifs around the background. I'm mixing Green Fields, Wood Warbler, and Glacier Caves fresh dye inks to freeze stamp these images around the background. I'm ensuring nothing looks too symmetrical and that the whole panel looks very organic. Once I feel I've stamped enough images to nearly fill the panel, I'll add literal paint drops this time. I can rub the acrylic marker onto an acrylic block and quickly saturate the ink with water. Then using my favorite fine-tipped water brush and this suspended ink, I'll add splatters all around the panel. I thought there was too much white cardstock showing on this panel, so I decided to add some uneven distressed edges around the cardstock. I used the large ink blending tools to very roughly apply inks to the edges of the cardstock panel. I used a mix of green gold and Caribbean sky to get the yellow, green, and blue mixes to mirror the analogous colors of the chrome sentiment. Here are the two versions of the same themed card. Which one is your favorite? Let me know in the comments, and if you give this a try, make sure you tag me on Instagram. My series encourages you to shop your existing Altenew stash and rekindle their love with newer releases. Perfect Pairings with Jaycee airs on the Altenew channel every second and fourth Sunday of the month. Please make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for tuning in to this Perfect Pairing episode with me, and I'll see you in the next one.
Hello there! Did that video just spark your creativity? And do you want more project ideas and inspiration videos too? Well, if you do, please make sure that you subscribe to the Altenew YouTube channel. Also, make sure that you do click that notification bell so you don't miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye bye!